Greg Lease, and welcome to another episode of GRPD Chronicles. Today, we'll meet the Assistant Chief of Police at Grand Rapids Police Department, Steve Schaar. We'll talk with Steve about his role at the PD, the community, and the city deer management hunt procedures for this fall. The beginning of the school year is definitely a significant event in every community. Later, we'll talk about this with the Grand Rapids High School Assistant Principal, Matt Dass. Finally, GRPD Officer Sean Pomplin captured a mysterious creature on camera while patrolling the Grand Rapids area. We'll view this evidence for the first time on this episode of GRPD Chronicles, and I have to say, Sean's experience has cryptid written all over it. But first, let's hear from Chief Scott Johnson in Chief's Corner.
School recently opened in Itasca County and the days are getting shorter. You know, with the decrease in daylight, children are walking and biking to and from school, and children are also getting on and off school buses. And we all have to be a bit more vigilant this time of year. There's nothing more heartbreaking for police officers than responding to a call of a child struck by a car. So parents, please speak with your children about using crosswalks and sidewalks and the importance of looking both ways before crossing the street. In Minnesota, about a third of all collisions with pedestrians occur during mornings and afternoons, and about a third occur where there are no crosswalks. If there is a crosswalk, common sense and the law dictates that as drivers, we have to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk. And when there is no sidewalk available, children should walk on the left side of the street facing traffic. As drivers, we just have to remind ourselves that we can't depend upon our children to have the judgment not to dart out from between parked cars. Also, parents, make sure your youngsters while bicycling are wearing bicycle helmets and that they obey stop signs. Reflective clothing is a great idea, and nearly half the bicycle versus vehicle accidents in Minnesota occur between 3 o'clock p.m. and 6 o'clock p.m. I can share with you from experience, most bicycle and pedestrian accidents at intersections that are controlled by a semaphore occur when a motorist comes to a stop at a red light, looks to the left to make sure there's no traffic coming from the left, doesn't look to the right, and then starts making a turn. A bicyclist is usually crossing the street at that point of time, or a pedestrian is stepping off the curb. So it's a good reminder to all of us that we have to look both ways, even as adults driving vehicles, when we come to a stop at a semaphore. We also have to use increased vigilance when coming across the school bus. We need to be prepared to stop, be aware that children are boarding the bus or getting off the bus, and they might just dart out across the road. Drive like that child might be yours. You know, above all else, when approaching a school zone or a school bus, just slow down. Take your eyes away from your cell phone or radio and pay extra attention. As a police officer, there are some images that are burned into our minds for the rest of our career. Believe me when I tell you that a child struck by a car and the look on the face of the driver and the parents is one of them. Please drive safely. I'm Police Chief Scott Johnson, and thanks for watching.
I'm tempted and busted and I oh my God!
September 6th marked the beginning of the 2016-2017 school year, and here to talk a little about that is the Assistant Principal at Grand Rapids High School, Matt Dass. Hi Matt, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, appreciate it.
So you're the Assistant Principal at Grand Rapids High School, and last year was my first year as the School Resource Officer there. Right. So last year was also your first year, so right. We kind of started there at the same time. We work hand in hand.
Yes.
Tell us a little about your job there, what you do.
Sure. Well, my job there as the assistant principal is it's got a lot of different facets to it. I think primarily most of my duties revolve around safety, keeping students safe, keeping staff safe, visitors safe, things like that. So reinforcing and enforcing policies, of course working with my colleagues and Mr. Schroeder, the principal, to deal with issues as they come up and respond to them, and really following our crisis plan when things come up, but also dealing with student issues, disciplinary issues when they arise. We deal with that, and frequently meeting with parents to iron out if there's a way that we can better serve their student, if there are opportunities for the student that aren't being met currently, that we can get them hooked up with, whether that's academically, behaviorally, or even with an activity or a sport or something like that.
Okay. And this isn't your first school job, obviously. What have you done before you got to Grand Rapids High School?
Right. So I started at King Elementary in Deer River. I was a school counselor and dean of students for a little over 4 years. From there, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to move down to Northland Reamer, serve as K-12 assistant principal for a year. And the opportunity came up to apply for the assistant principal position here, Grand Rapids High School. Again, fortunate enough to get that, and here I am. So that's kind of been my path, but I really that my foundation in school counseling and really considering the student and the adult from the whole person is it really guides me in my the ways I interact with parents, with students, with colleagues. So that is a really good foundation, and I use it every single day. So
you're kind of the go-to person for students and staff with any kind of issues, basically whatsoever, from what I've seen. You're kind of almost the liaison between, everyone and the principal. Yep. In a lot of ways. Yep,
in a lot of ways. I mean, we're lucky that we've got a tremendous amount of support staff, everything from truancy to an excellent course teaching department, special ed department, yourself and our security officer, and then of course Mr. Schroeder, the principal. We've got a great support staff that work together really well. I tend to be the point person for heading off issues of the disciplinary nature, safety issues, things like that. Parental concerns will sometimes come my way, sometimes they'll go Mark's way, but we try to work in tandem. Mark and I are in constant contact, conversation. We're playing out scenarios, we're working together, just as you and I do throughout the day, and many of our teachers. So I'm fortunate in that I have a great staff to work with when things come my way, because the old saying, it takes a village. Well, to raise a child, it takes a village to support them as well. So we're fortunate that we have a good support staff, and I'm a component of that.
Definitely does take a village at the high school. Having been there a year now, I see how that, everyone working together, everyone becomes the machine.
Yep.
And it's been very interesting for me. You brought up part of your job is safety.
Yep.
You had the opportunity to watch the Safety is Everyone's Responsibility video.
Yes,
on the school bus arm
Yep.
stop violation. We have issues like that from time to time here. The video, how horrifying.
Right, yeah, I mean, close call, right?
Absolutely.
And, the thing, lots of disturbing things about it. It certainly wasn't just one car that goes by, if you watch it, but very close call, and that's why I go back to safety. That's why we have crisis plans. That's why we have safety committees, and I'm talking at a building level here. That's why we have liaison officers, security officers. When we're talking about supporting 1,200 students, 75 plus staff on an everyday basis. Every day is different. You never know what's going to come at you, but you need to be ready. And that's why we try to be proactive with safety. For example, this year, this summer actually, we consulted our safety committee at the high school, consulted with Minnesota Department of Human Services, I believe their school safety division. And they were nice enough to come up and help us review and poke holes in our crisis plan, and we made some revisions that needed to be made. We tightened some things up, And I feel like we have a very solid crisis plan right now, and it's something that we need to be looking at every year as all kinds of factors change. So this video, I immediately thought about, okay, if I'm in that situation, how helpless do you feel as that bus driver, right?
Right.
And thinking in my context every day, there are times when I just don't have control over a situation, and you feel helpless. But with being proactive and having a plan, and you do the best you can to set it up so that when things like that go sideways, you're in a position to at least have some measure of control over the situation, or try to at least influence it. So, when we think about safety, planning is huge, but in the moment you have to know who your resources are, who you're going to go to, and have an idea of what you're going to need to do, and prepare yourself, I think, mentally in the moment as well.
Switching gears a little bit, you have a lot of contact with not only our students but their parents.
Right.
From your angle, as an assistant principal at our high school, what kind of things can parents do to assist or help their students or their kids in having a successful school year, whether it be safety related or academic related? Is there any things that that many of us might not actually think about that
Sure.
you see from your angle looking at situations?
Sure, and I'll just kind of reference in my mind, both at Grand Rapids High School and in past roles that I've had. I feel like some of the best ways parents can influence a student's school year positively is, and certainly it's a two-way street, is communication. But maintain that communication with, whether it's a teacher, a counselor if need be, myself, could be an activities director, anything like that, a coach. That proactive communication is huge. And I'll go back to it again and reference the saying, it takes a village. It certainly does. And if something's going on with a student that may affect their day, that may change how their perception of the day, and may affect their attitude and even their behaviors, it's great to have a heads up on that and know about it. Similarly, same thing. We always encourage teachers, myself, support staff, be in contact with parents. Try to be proactive. One thing that typically comes up is try to make those positive phone calls home, and those positive interactions with students, so that you start building that relationship, not just with the family, with the student. So if something does happen, if a student needs support, they feel comfortable going to somebody, whether it's a teacher or it could be anybody at the school. But I think communication is just huge. Communication and safety, I feel like, are really two big cogs in this machine that you referenced. That is the high school. So when we talk about what can parents do, well, I think it's a team effort. I think just us do our part, and parents also being proactive with communication. And if something can be improved, we want to look into that. And we want students to have the best experience they can at Grand Rapids High School. We want them to graduate on time, certainly. And we just, if there's a gap that or something, a piece of information that we need to know that could help us do that better, we want to know.
Sure. I've noticed, your job, a large part of your job is dealing with disciplinary actions. And one thing I've noticed in watching you is that it seems like you try to balance, all the negative contacts that you may have to have with as many positive contacts as you can as well. So you'll not only will you be forced to make a big deal out of the bad things, you also go to your way to make a big deal out of the good things these same students and others do.
Right.
And I've seen you kind of transfer that over to parents too.
Yep, and that's something that's really important to me, and just I think it's just who I am. It's innate to who I am. Is focus on the positive, be solution focused. When disciplinary issues come up, yes, they need to be dealt with, but it's a learning opportunity. It's important to me that each student gets to leave with their dignity, that they're not figuratively beat up when they're in there. It's not just a total bashing, but it's a conversation, and it's thinking about, what could we do differently next time, or let's go back to that situation. Sometimes it takes some de-escalation to get a student to be able to talk about it, and so if a student's not ready to talk about it, sometimes you just need to wait. You can't force that. But allowing students to leave with their dignity and to feel like they were respected, those are things that I expect of students and, quite frankly, of staff members, and that's something that I hold myself to a very high standard of. I try to every single day, is to be respectful, make sure people feel dignified, make sure that they're able to trust that they can come to me with an issue, whether it's a staff or a student or anyone, and that they're going to be heard, that they're going to feel like something's going to come from that, at least something or some type of compromise if it takes a little while to come to a reasonable solution, but allowing students to leave with their dignity and maintaining that relationship, so that if that student needs to come and report something to me, and maybe I need to issue a consequence this time, but if I need to field a report from them or something, they need to feel comfortable coming to me. And if they leave without their dignity, if I've done something to that, then that's going to hinder that, and that's incredibly important to me. And that's where I talked about the school counseling skill set, the de-escalation skills. It's incredibly important, and that's something that you and I have worked through together too, in particular situations. And so that skill set with de-escalation and working through issues is I think imperative to maintaining student relationships, even if it's a tough conversation you need to have.
Right. Well, I enjoy coming to work every day. I think my move to the high school has been a good one in my career, and it's been a pleasure working with you. And I'm looking forward to the next year or 2 or 3 or whatever it is that I'm there. So I appreciate you coming here and talking with us, and thank you.
Well, I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
The city of Grand Rapids is blessed with some pretty great leaders within the various city departments. One that I happen to work under is GRPD's own Steve Schaar, the Assistant Chief of Police at the Grand Rapids Police Department. Hi Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here, Greg.
Steve, you're the Assistant Chief of Police, you're my boss. You've obviously earned a role of Assistant Chief here. Tell us what your past is, where you come from, and what led you to be the Assistant Chief here at the PD.
Okay, well, first off, I was born in Deer River and I was raised in Grand Rapids. I attended schools here in Grand Rapids. My first job as a law enforcement officer was in the city of Cross Lake. I started there in the spring of 1990. And I started as a patrol officer and was promoted to sergeant. And I left Cross Lake in 1996, in the fall of 1996, to take a job with the Grand Rapids Police Department in my hometown. I was very excited and happy to do that. And so I started in the fall of 1996, and through the years I was a patrol officer. I became a dare instructor. I was a dare instructor for 9 years. I was also a member of our SWAT team, Thousand Lakes SWAT team. And I was also school liaison officer for 1.5 years at the middle school. And then became a sergeant, promoted to sergeant. I was a sergeant for a couple of years. And 6 years ago, I was promoted to the assistant chief's position. Okay. And that's where I'm currently at. Okay.
So the role of assistant chief here at the PD, what does that entail for the people that might not know?
Some of my responsibilities are the financing and purchasing of items for the police department. The recruitment of new officers and promotions of officers within our department.
You oversee the hiring then, basically?
Yes, I oversee the hiring, and there's usually a panel of 3 or 4 people on the panel when we hire new officers.
Okay.
And same thing with promotions within our department. So, and I oversee those 2 things, and also any internal affairs. Issues that may come up, I handle them. Also, I'm in charge of the police station facility that has anything to do with anything within the police department. Also, forfeitures through the criminal proceedings, and also our department budget. And a newly formed committee that I'm heading is the Citizens Advisory Committee, which was formed over the last year, and there's 9 members that were appointed by the City Council, and that just started this summer, and we've had 2 meetings, and our 3rd one will be coming up in October. It's held every other month, and I think that's will be a great benefit towards, not only for the police department, but for also the community. It was established to enhance lines of communication between the Grand Rapids residents, the police department, and the City Council. And together, the advisory board and the police department will identify and focus on public safety issues and collaborate with community leaders, organizations, and stakeholders in developing solutions to multifaceted community concerns. And the board will provide recommendations to the chief of police and the City Council on how the police department should address some of these issues.
So I may have it wrong, but so is the Citizens Advisory Committee kind of the liaison between the City Council and the PD, or not really?
Well, yeah, you can say that in a way. They don't. This advisory committee, they don't. Hand down discipline or anything like that. They're just an advisory board between the city, police department, and the City Council members and the citizens of Grand Rapids on whatever issues may come up. So I'll give an example of one of them, body cameras. It's a hot topic out there in the general public on body cameras. Should Grand Rapids Police Department, wear them? We do have some body cameras, but with the new legislation that came down, it's very expensive in order for us to maintain and continue with the body camera program. So right now that's on hold right now. And one of the responsibilities of this board is, they're out in the public, they'll be talking with the public, is this an expense that the taxpayers, should take on, and do they think that we should be wearing these body cameras?
So it's just another way to filter information through a few more ears.
Because the police department, we think that we know everything, and we don't. We don't know everything. Well, this is.
We always say our administration thinks that, but just kidding.
in this way here, you have this board that's out talking with the community, and the citizens, and getting their perspective on if we should be wearing body cameras or not. Because we don't always have the answers for everything, and for this board to be out there and communicating with the public and coming back with the recommendations, not only to the police department but the City Council, will help us steer us in that direction of certain situations that arise. So.
Sure, that makes sense. You've been around a long time. You've been involved with a lot of different aspects of this job in the community, Steve. Looking back at the last 10 or so years, can you think of, is there an evolution with this job that's kind of brought us up until today? And then if so, is there an evolution that you foresee happening in the next 10 or 15 years?
So when I started over 26 years ago as a rookie, I talked to the old veterans, and they would say, I don't know how you can do police work today. Way back when we started, things are so much easier. And fast forward 26 years later, I'm seeing the same thing. Well, how can it's hard to police and do your job now versus when I started 26 years ago. But we all change. Society changes, policies change, laws change, and we have to
change with them.
We have to change with them, and we have some department goals. That we as a police department and administrators, we tell the City Council, hey, this is, there's some of the department goals that we have for the future of our city, for the police department. And some of them are, being more effective and efficient on reducing blight in our city. We do get numerous complaints of blight, whether it's, people not mowing their lawns, there's trash in the yard, or junked out vehicles in the yard. So, the better technology with the new technology advancements over the years that I've seen in my career, that'll assist and help us in tracking these blight issues around the city. Right. So, and then also we just the city just adopted an emergency operations plan for the city, and that was in the works for several years. Marlon Halverson, who works for the Itasca County Sheriff's Department, is the one who basically developed this plan over the last several years, and the city adopted that plan. And so our goal within the next 6 months to a year is to have a tabletop exercise involving the new emergency operations plan.
Okay.
And we'll do that periodically because there's different situations that we can utilize in the emergency operations plan to do tabletop exercises and that. And by doing those, that it betters us to prepare for these disasters or natural disasters or
Big incidents.
Yes.
Of some sort.
Any big incidents. So, and we can look at where we need to improve ourselves. So, and then also another hot topic in the city is animal control, and we're looking at updating the city ordinance on animal regulations that reflect the current state statutes and practices. Right now, a lot of our ordinances involving animals, domesticated animals, they need to be updated so that they're current with the state statutes. So,
Okay.
and those are some of the bigger issues that we're facing. And granted, there are several. So
Right. It seems like it's always an ongoing issue that, there's always change, like you said. And once you kind of feel like you got caught up, it seems like in the not too distant future, it's going to change again. So
Yes,
that's kind of what I've noticed.
we always have to stay on top of things because
Right.
they're constantly changing, and
Absolutely.
we have to, just try to be on top of that. So.
It seems like the one common denominator, in the evolution of this job always seems to be technology.
Yes, it is.
You're using technology to handle each or all of these, specific issues that you've just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of animals, another one of your jobs is you head up the city deer management hunt program, correct?
Correct. Back in 2012, there was a lot of concerns, citizens raising issues with the city council on the deer herd and management of the deer herd within the city limits. We do have an ordinance in place that prohibits the feeding of deer. But along with that, we do have quite a large deer herd within the city limits.
Yes, we do.
So, upon having several meetings and discussions with the Minnesota DNR, game wardens, city officials, and the police department, we came up with a city deer hunt that started in 2013. So we're just entering, this will be our 4th year that we've had this special deer hunt. And what that allows for is to take, with archery, muzzleloader, or rifle, we have a hunting zones map, or firearm zones map within the city. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no hunting areas, then areas of archery only, muzzleloader, and rifle only. So whatever, if you're archery hunting, you're allowed to take one deer of either sex with your main tag, and then you're allowed up to 4 bonus tags, but those are antlerless deer only.
Okay.
The same thing with muzzleloader and rifle. The bonus tags are only good for antlerless.
Do you have to fill your main tag before you can fill your city bonus tags with these does?
No.
Or antlerless, I should say?
You don't have to fill your main tag first. You can
Okay.
fill the bonus tags first. And for the firearms or muzzleloader, the deadline is already came and went,
Mm-hmm.
and that was September 8th. So, but for archery, anytime during archery season, you can come down to the police department, fill out an application, which is a $20 fee, and then with that application, you're supposed to have it on you at all times while you're out in the field hunting. And then that will allow you to go to an ELS agent, electronic service agent, to purchase these bonus tags.
Okay.
And you can purchase up to 4. You don't have to purchase all 4 at once. And then there's special, Grand Rapids is located in area 179. But within the city limits of Grand Rapids, if you're archery hunting, that's under section 995.
That's the area that the
That's
city
the
is
area.
in, 995?
That's only for archery.
Right.
The city's broken up into 3 areas. 995 is for archery, 931 is for firearms, and 946 is for muzzleloader.
Okay.
So if you happen to harvest an animal, a deer, whichever archery, firearms, or muzzleloader, you must register it under that special number and not under 179. This is
Gotcha.
how we're able to track the
Okay.
deer taken within the city limits of Grand Rapids.
And those numbers, again, I'm assuming are on the paperwork that you get from the police department when you go to the front window
Yes.
to apply.
We do have a a firearm zones map at the police department, along with the Q&A, and also a letter from the DNR, and also that you can also obtain that on our website as well.
And this deer hunt information is applicable because it is September 15th today, and in 2 days, the 17th is the opener. So,
Yes.
well, Steve, thanks for all the information. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for coming in today.
And thank you, Greg. Appreciate it.
Officer Sean Pomplin ran across something he won't soon forget while patrolling the Itasca bike trail near the fairgrounds. I first learned of Sean's encounter when he spoke of a shadowy creature that darted through the shine of his headlights. Sean said it was big, hairy, and emitted a strange odor. While speaking with Sean, it looked to me as if he'd seen a ghost, as he compared the incident to a similar sighting he'd had many years ago near Reamer, Minnesota. I wondered if it could be. Could Sean have actually seen it? The creature similar to that recorded in the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin film, now known as Patty? Well, naturally I was intrigued, but when I learned Sean had actually caught the creature on squad cam, I was elated. Now, for the first time, let's take a look at what Sean saw that night. As I'm sure many of you, I too am pretty disappointed in Sean's ability, or lack thereof, to identify animals native to Minnesota. But no worries, Sean. One day you may actually see Bigfoot. Keep at it and keep the faith. That's it for today. If you have information that you believe would assist law enforcement, we ask that you contact investigations at 218-326-3464 or contact our tip line at tipline@cityofgrandrapidsmn.com. That's tipline@cityofgrandrapidsmn.com, or call 218-326-7633. Remember, you can always private message us on the Grand Rapids Police Department Facebook page as well. Callers do have the ability to remain anonymous, and every effort will be made to respect the source's privacy. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.